a lot of our school. My dad explained that he was asked to come and candidate to be the pastor here at First Baptist Hammond. And at the time, a thousand questions rushed through my mind, confusion, what's going on, how could you even accept this? This is crazy, this is supposed to be our home. Those were the things that were going through my mind. But I remember the primary thing being denial. I always thought, no, that's not going to happen, no way. This is our home. We live in Long Beach, this is where we're going to grow up and die. This is us. And fast forward a few weeks and we're here candidating, me, my parents, and my brother Preston. And I specifically remember that feeling of denial because while I was here, my Uncle Johnny, he bought me a big winter coat. I remember thinking, Uncle Johnny, you don't have to do this. I'm never going to wear this in Long Beach. But he obviously knew something I didn't. And so that feeling of denial as the time went on and the electoral process began and we ended up moving out here. That denial went away, and it was really just a lot of confusion. Like, God, this is not what I was supposed to do. This is not what I had in mind. You must have your hand must have slipped where you're writing your plan for my life. This is not what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to be back with my friends. I'm supposed to be, finishing out my basketball season and going on my senior trip and back with the people I grew up with and the place that I always thought I'd be. You go to, the college I thought I was going to go to and live in the house I thought I was going to live in. This was all what I thought was God's plan for my life, what I thought I needed to do. And it felt like I was kind of collateral damage in what was going on. And it was a mistake. I'm not supposed to be here. And I'm very thankful for church staff and for the HB staff. They made my transition, the 2 or 3 months that I was here at HB, very smooth, let me get my credits and graduate. And the whole time I'm thinking, okay, I never felt any kind of resentment or anger, but just a lot of, frustration. I just need to get through these couple months, and then I can get back on track to where I'm supposed to be. And later on that summer, I can remember there was a youth conference going on that my church in Long Beach was attending. And my mom had pulled out the laptop on the kitchen counter and said, hey, kids, look who's preaching. Let's sit down and listen to this. And we were watching the preacher preach for a few minutes, seeing some skits, and it was just I had no interest in being in watching that, knowing that that's where all my friends were, and that's where I was that's where I would belong. That's what I thought, and I immediately left the room and I went into the front yard and I kind of had a little pity party for myself, and I remember my mom following me out and saying, "What's going on?" I said, "Mom, I don't want to watch that. That's where I'm supposed to be." And she said, "No, Derek, this is where you're supposed to be. You're supposed to be here. You're here for a reason."
Amen.
And it really was the first time that it ever come across my mind that, hey, God didn't make a mistake in bringing me here.
Amen.
My reaction to his action would determine how this would be. My spirit to this was determine how the next few months and few years were going to go. And it was in that moment that I had a huge attitude shift. And I remember thinking back just recently when Brother Eddie asked me to give my experience of moving here and how God worked in my heart, this story really stuck out. And I remember the two things that really made that transition much easier for me were obviously the example of my parents. And when I was moving, I didn't really think too much about the sacrifices that they were making and the steps out of their comfort zone they were taking. It was all about me at the time. And I remember thinking, man, I'm so blessed to have the parents that I have in the way that they led our family through this time very unselfishly. And the second thing that I thought about was you as a church and how much you loved us when we came here. Many of you were here, and I remember many of your faces, and maybe I don't remember all of your names, but your actions and your presence and the things you would do for us as a family, those acts of love, they really stuck out to me. And I'm sure all of my family. And we are so grateful to you for that, for the love that you've showed to us, the love of Christ that you've shown toward us. And so, as tonight, I don't really have much more to say, Brother Eddie, but to publicly thank you for all that you've done for us, especially in those few months in the first couple of years, but even today, how much you've loved me and my family. Just a few minutes ago, standing in the choir room, a few people came by, shook my hand, they remember my name, they told me they were praying for me, and that means so much to me. I know it does to our family. So I just want to take this time to publicly thank you on behalf of my family. So thank you all very much.
Yay!
There's few young people I have more respect for than I have for Brother Derek, Lydia, and Preston, who could have made their parents' debut here at First Baptist Church just downright awful.
Muy pocos otros jóvenes tienen mi más alto respeto que estos jóvenes hijos del pastor, que pudieron haber hecho esta experiencia del pastor viniéndose para acá una pesadilla, pero hicieron todo lo que tenían que hacer para hacer la bendición.
Every one of us in leadership knew that the kids were hurting.
Cada uno de nosotros en liderazgo sabíamos, estábamos conscientes que los hijos estaban en dolor,
But they let God work in their heart,
pero permitieron que Dios trabajara en sus
and they
corazones
were obedient to their parents.
y fueron obedientes a sus padres.
And I felt they were a tremendous example to the rest of our young people.
Y también fueron de un ejemplo tremendo a los demás jóvenes de la iglesia.
See, the rest of our youth group they were struggling too.
El resto de nuestra juventud aquí en la iglesia también estaba luchando.
And I believe by their lifestyle
Y creo yo que por el ejemplo de ellos
and their obedience, they helped the rest of our kids.
y su obediencia ayudaron a los demás jóvenes de nuestra
And
iglesia.
I want to thank them for
Y
that.
quiero agradecerles a ellos por eso. Estoy orgulloso de ustedes.
I'm the kind of guy that thinks everybody in the world ought to live in Northwest Indiana.
Yo soy el tipo de persona que creo que todos deberían de vivir en esta área del país.
So when Brother Duff told me that the deacon board had voted on Brother Wilkerson to be our pastor,
Cuando el hermano Duff me avisó que los diáconos habían votado por el pastor Wilkerson,
I thought he'd be pretty excited to come here.
yo pensé que iba a estar bien emocionado venir aquí.
I don't know why anybody wants to live in California.
Yo no sé por qué alguien quisiera vivir en California.
And I figured everybody was looking for a way out.
Y yo pensaba que todos querían salirse de California.
But a couple of years ago, Preacher took a few of us to California.
Hace unos años atrás, el pastor nos llevó a algunos de nosotros a California.
We went to Lighthouse Baptist Church, Brother Fisher's church's leadership conference.
Fuimos a la conferencia del hermano Fisher ahí en San Diego.
And we went out